Morena, everybody. Welcome to Tawa School Story Time. Great that you can join us for some more stories. Today we're going to be reading by Colin McNaughton, and then we will be continuing on. Whoops, nearly dropped the book with Fantastic Mr. Fox. So let's get stuck into by Colin McNaughton. One fine day. And there's Mr. Wolf going. Shh. Mr. Wolf, what are you doing down there? If you must know, nosy porker, I'm waiting for you to come out so I can gobble you up. Why would you want to do that? Because I'm hungry. Why don't you get a job? Well, clever chops, said Mr. Wolf, what sort of job do you suggest? Well, said Preston, what do you want to be? Said Mr. Wolf, full up. What are you good at? Said Preston. Said Mr. Wolf, eating pigs. And what do you enjoy? Said Preston. Said Mr. Wolf, eating pigs and being full up. You could be a footballer, said Preston. Said Mr. Wolf, I wouldn't mind a shot at that. And he's saying, what? I'm only playing football with him. You could be an astronaut, said Preston. Said Mr. Wolf, I'll be over the moon with that. And he's saying here, beam me up, Scotty. And it's Mr. Wolf, planet of the pigs is in view. Carving knives at the ready, over. You could be a school teacher, said Preston. Said Mr. Wolf, I could certainly teach you a lesson or two. And he's saying, aha, there goes the lunch bell. I wonder what's on the menu today, as he looks at all the pigs. You could You could be a poet, said Preston. Said Mr. Wolf, I could do verse, I suppose. And he's saying, there is naught so beautiful in this world as a fresh plump pig with a tail that's curled. Yes, that pig's the creature I'd like the mosted, so sweet and tender, especially roasted. You could be a crane driver, said Preston. Said Mr. Wolf, that's a smashing idea. I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll knock your house down. You could be a sailor, said Preston. Said Mr. Wolf, I could take that idea on board. And there's Preston going, gulp. You could be a cook, said Preston. Said Mr. Wolf, a very tasty idea. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So, Mr. Wolf, said Preston, what do you think? Said Mr. Wolf, it's certainly food for thought. Suddenly, Preston, dinner's ready. Coming, Mum. Dad. I mean, people don't realize what hard work it is catching pigs. All that scheming and creeping about all the sneaking around. Grumble, grumble, grumble. There's Dad. What's he up to? Luckily, I happen to have with me this pot full of slops. A wolf could starve. I haven't had a bite since breakfast. I could eat a horse. It's not fair. He's inside stuffing his snout while I'm out here with a rumbly tummy. When do I ever get to win? And Dad's saying, not this time. Not in this book, chum. Dinner is served. It could be wrong, but this looks like the end. Poor old Mr. Wolf, not having much luck with Preston. All right, we're going to continue on with Roald Dahl's Fantastic Mr. Fox. All right, here we go. The terrible shovels. You remember yesterday, Mr. Fox just got his tail shot off as he was sneaking out. So, down in the hole, Mrs. Fox had tenderly licked the stump of Mr. Fox's tail to stop the bleeding. It was the finest tail for miles around, she said between licks. It hurts, said Mr. Fox. I know it does, sweetheart, but it'll soon get better. And it will soon grow again, Dad, said one of the small foxes. It'll never grow again, said Mr. Fox. I shall be tailless for the rest of my life. He looked very glum. Mrs. Fox dozed off, but Mr. Fox couldn't sleep because of the pain in the stump of his tail. Well, he thought, I suppose I'm lucky to be alive at all. And now they've found our hole, we're going to have to move out as soon as possible. We'll never get any peace if we... What was that? He turned his head sharply and listened. The noise he heard now was the most frightening noise a fox could ever hear. The scraping of shovels digging into the soil. Wake up, he shouted. They're digging us out. Mr. Fox was wide awake in 1 second. She sat up, quivering all over. Are you sure that's it? She whispered. I'm positive. Listen. They'll kill my children, cried Mrs. Fox. Never, said Mr. Fox. But darling, they will, sobbed Mrs. Fox. You know they will. Scrunch, scrunch, scrunch went the shovels above their heads. Small stones and bits of earth began falling from the roof of the tunnel. How will they kill us, Mummy? Asked one of the small foxes. His round black eyes were huge with fright. Will there be dogs? He said. Mrs. Fox began to cry. She gathered her 4 children close to her and held them tight. Suddenly there was an especially loud crunch above their heads, and the sharp end of a shovel came right through the ceiling. The sight of this awful thing. Think of what, Dad? A fox can dig quicker than a man, shouted Mr. Fox, beginning to dig. Nobody in the world can dig as fast as a fox. The soil began to fly furiously behind Mr. Fox, and he started to dig for dear life with his front feet. Mrs. Fox ran forward to help him. So did the 4 children. Go downwards, ordered Mr. Fox. We'll go deep as we possibly can. The tunnel began to grow longer and longer. It sloped steeply downward, deeper and deeper below the surface of the ground it went. The mother and the father and all 4 of the children were digging together. Their front legs were moving so fast you couldn't see them, and gradually the scrunching and scraping of the shovels became fainter and fainter. After about an hour, Mr. Fox stopped digging. Hold it, he said. They all stopped. They turned and looked back up the long tunnel they had just dug. All was quiet. She said to her children, I should like you to know that it wasn't for your father we should all be dead by now. Your father is a fantastic fox. Mr. Fox looked at his wife and she smiled. He loved her more than ever when she said things like that. The terrible tractors. As the sun rose the next morning, Boggis and Bunce and Bean were still digging. They had dug a hole so deep that you could put a house into it, but they had not yet come to the end of the fox's tunnel. They were all very tired and cross. Dang and blast, said Boggis. Whose rotten idea was this? Well, that was Bean's idea, said Bunce. Boggis and Bunce both stared at Bean. Bean took another swig of cider, then put the flask back into his pocket without offering it to the others. Listen, he said angrily, I want that fox. I'm going to get that fox. I'm not giving in till I've strung him up over my front porch dead as a dumpling. We can't get him by digging, that's for sure, said the fat Boggis. I've had enough of digging. Bunce, the little pot-bellied dwarf, looked up at Bean and said, Have you got any more stupid ideas then? What? Said Bean. I can't hear you. Bean never took a bath. He never even washed. As a result, his ear holes were clogged with all kinds of muck and wax and bits of chewing gum and dead flies and stuff like that. This made him deaf. Speak louder, he said to Bunce, and Bunce shouted back, Have you got any more stupid ideas? Bean rubbed the back of his neck with a dirty finger. He had a boil coming there and it itched. What we need on this job, he said, is machines, mechanical shovels. We'll have them out in 5. You stay here and see the fox doesn't escape. Bunce and I will go fetch our machinery. If he tries to get out, shoot him quick. The long, thin Bean walked away. The tiny Bunce trotted after him. The fat Boggis stayed where he was with his gun pointing at the foxhole. Soon, 2 enormous diggers with mechanical shovels on the front ends came clanking into the wood. Bean was driving one, Bunce the other. The machines went to work biting huge mouthfuls of soil out of the hill. The big tree under which Mr. Fox had dug his hole in the first place was toppled like a matchstick. On all sides, rocks were sent flying and trees were falling, and the noise was deafening. Down in the tunnel, the foxes crouched, listening to the terrible clanging and banging overhead. "What's happening, Dad?" cried the small foxes. "What are they doing?" Mr. Fox didn't know what was happening or what they were doing. "It's an earthquake," cried Mrs. Fox. "Look," said one of the small foxes, "our tunnel got shorter. I can see daylight." They all looked around, and yes, the mouth of the tunnel was only a few feet away from them now, and in the circle of daylight beyond them, they could see the two huge black tractors almost on top of them. "Tractors!" shouted Mr. Fox, "and mechanical shovels! Dig for your lives! Dig, dig, dig!" The race. As the machines bit away more and more soil, the hilltop looked like this. Sometimes the fox would gain a little ground and the clanking noises would grow fainter and louder. Once the foxes actually saw the sharp metal edge of one of the shovels as it scraped up the earth just behind them. "Keep going, my darlings," panted Mr. Fox. "Don't give up." "Keep going," the fat boggers shouted to Bunce and Bean. "I'll get him any moment now." "Have you caught sight of him yet?" Bean called back. "Not yet," shouted Boggles, "but I think you're close." "I'll pick him up with my bucket," shouted Bunce. "I'll chop him to pieces." But by lunchtime, the machines were still at it, and so were the poor foxes. The hill now looked like this. The farmers didn't stop for lunch. They were too keen to finish the job. "Hey there, Mr. Fox," yelled Bunce, leaning out the tractor. "We're coming to get you now." "You've had your last chicken," yelled Boggles. "You'll never come prowling around my farm again." A sort of madness had taken hold of the three men. The tall, skinny Bean and the dwarfish, pot-bellied Bunce were driving their machines like maniacs, racing the motors and making the shovels dig at terrific speed. The fat Boggles was hopping about like a dervish, shouting, "Faster, faster!" By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, this is what had happened to the hill. The hole the machines had dug was like the crater of a volcano. It was such an extraordinary sight. The crowds of people came rushing out from the surrounding villages to have a look. They stood, they jeered and laughed. But this only made the three farmers more furious and more obstinate and more determined than ever not to give up until they had caught the fox. All right, we're going to finish there. Chapter 7 is we'll never let him go. Well, thanks for joining us today on Tawa School Storytime. We'll catch up with you all tomorrow, same time. We're going to be reading another Colin McNaughton book, and this one is called Hmmmm. So look forward to reading that with you and more. Fantastic, Mr. Fox. We'll catch you all later. Ka kite anō.